On this night, West Virginia Mountaineer fans can harken back to the old Big East days and also sing country roads as Bob Huggins, West Virginia Mountaineer team here in 2021 gets their biggest victory of the year over the number 15 Connecticut Huskies. WVU winning at 56-53. Taz Sherman leading the charge, once again becoming that number one offensive factor for West Virginia this year, which leads them to this big win. Sherman 23 points on the night. This is your WVU postgame show here on Pittsburgh Sports Live and WV Sports Now. I'm your host, Mike Asti, and I will be joined by Ethan Bock, who is live at the Coliseum, able to soak up all the energy and soak up all that was West Virginia's win over UCONN. Ethan, obviously, it's a big win for WVU. It wasn't the prettiest game in the world. They were able to get the victory, but it certainly was that old Big East physical rebounding battle. Missed shots were there. Sherman did end up with the 23, but certainly there's still something to be desired from the bench. There's still some issues around this team, but on this night, they get a big victory. They get the job done. They get the victory over Connecticut, and now there's even a conversation if this team potentially should be ranked in that top 25. Not the case to this point, but we'll see from now on. How did West Virginia get it done? They had to hang on at the end as well. I mean, in those final seconds, they didn't even have it fully locked up, but they do win it by 3 over the top 15 teams. So obviously a big win for the program this year.
Yeah, I think rebounds and free throws came down to the end of the game, really. West Virginia struggled the entire game shooting from the free throw line, and they did all right rebounding considering how good UConn is at rebounding the ball. I think the play of the game was Gabe Osaboyan's offensive rebound after Sherman's missed free throw that was able to give him another set of free throws to make it a 2-possession game. So in the end, even though West Virginia didn't hit their free throws for most of the game, they were able to close the game out with free throws and get offensive rebounds, which helped out in the win. It really was like a Big East, like an old Big East battle. Like both of these teams scoring 80 points, 70 points a game, and it's in the 50s tonight. So.
Right. Yeah, it was old school Big East. This was physical. You could put this in your backyard. This was one of those style games. Huggins probably secretly loves it. I mean, this is one of those games. The West Virginia basketball is tougher than a weekend at your in-laws. I mean, this game fits that bill perfectly. WVU wins at 56-53 over UConn, number 15 team ranked in the nation prior to the game. Obviously, that's going to change. You mentioned the free throw shooting issues for WVU, 44%, 12 for 27. They actually lose the rebounding battle, yet win this game. It was close, losing it by only 4, but Huggins has kind of made it clear this year that, obviously they were going to have to do it as a team effort, rebounding-wise. They don't have a big like they had last year. That was the issue earlier in the season that we discussed. But they make the rebounding battle a close one, a battle that they have only won a couple times this year. Would you classify this game as a game that West Virginia won, or if we were talking in the other perspective that Connecticut lost? Because you have to imagine, if you're entering this game from the UConn perspective, if the Mountaineers are 12 for 27 free throw wise, UConn still wins the rebounding battle, even though it's closer than maybe they would like. And yes, Sherman goes for 23 like he has on some other nights this year, but the bench once again doesn't give you that much. UConn probably figures they win this game if all of that happens. They didn't.
Yeah, I would say up until like middle of the second half, I would say West Virginia was shooting themselves in the foot. They had a great first half, and then they came out of the gates in the second half really slow. I would say if it wasn't for that final minute, they kind of deserved to lose, but they earned that victory in the last minute just off of hustle point. Like they had a jump ball at one point with Polycap, but they had, of course, Gabe was all over the floor at some points with that offensive rebound. Like I said, was the play of the game. So
yeah,
they in the last minute, they deserved to win that game. They won the game.
Yeah, and again, the win is the win. It counts the same. They definitely deserve to win the game, even if Connecticut didn't have their best day. Again, number 15 and losing a game in which WVU struggles so much from the free throw line Now, is there any problems from this game that still gives you pause that basically makes West Virginia maybe vulnerable to be upset, even though they're converting an upset in this game? Because again, you go to Taz Sherman stepping up this year, and you have McNeil also scoring in this game, ending up with 16. But we've talked about a lot earlier this year that maybe needing that third guy to do something out. There's still a large disparity offensively between the 1 and 2. And if McNeil's not giving you production, then it's really just Sherman. So 56-53. I mean, I can't get over how this was an old Big East game, how this was an old Big East score, and how West Virginia's offense did struggle in this game, but also did Connecticut. Anything that still gives you pause for moving on to a schedule that certainly gets easier from here? Kent State, UAB, Youngstown State, then they have the Big 12 schedule. But anything that gives you pause that maybe they're vulnerable?
Yeah, they really do need like a third scorer, whether that's Jalen Bridges or Isaiah Cottrell or even Malik Curry. He could do it. Taz Sherman, he scored. It's every game. He's leading the team almost. I think it's been 2 games all year where he hasn't led the team in scoring. I'm waiting for one of these games where he doesn't score over 20 points. Like, who's going to score other than
that's another question I was actually going to ask. Can they win a game in which Taz Sherman is not a dominating leading scorer? Because he emerged after maybe the first week or so of the season as that guy for this team. But unlike even in past years when they had that guy, even last year with Deuce McBride, there's so much of a lacking of depth that it almost is weird that McNeil stepping up or Bridges stepping up is almost just as important as Sherman being the leading scorer, because if it's just Sherman, he's not going to give you 35 or 40 points a night. You do need more, and that is still not there.
Yeah, I think a big key for them is Jalen Bridges. He's been quiet ever since the Pitt game where I think he scored 18 points and he led the team in scoring that game. He's been a little quiet ever since that game. And tonight he had 3 points. It was a corner 3. He shot 1 of 3. I mean, it's not like he plays bad. It's just sometimes you forget that he's even like on the court.
Right.
And I think he has the potential to become that third leading scorer. I think he averages a decent amount of points this season. Same with Malik Curry. He didn't score any today either. So I think either get Malik Curry or Jalen Bridges to get going as that third scorer. As even if they score roughly 10 points a game, that could really help take some of the pressure off of Sherman of scoring over 20 points a game.
That would be a big difference. Yeah. Bridges with 3, 1 for 3 from the field in this game. Is it just simply the rest of the team needs to take more shots? Is it maybe that this offense goes too much through Sherman and some of these players know that he's the number 1 now, so they're kind of sitting and waiting and they let him kind of control everything, whether he's the point or not? Do you need more shots from them? Because 1 for 3, I mean, take 6 shots a game and see what happens.
Yeah, I think well, everybody game plans around the offense going through Taz Sherman. That's no doubt.
Yeah.
I think some of the other guys just need to get a little bit more aggressive, like Cottrell, Bridges, Curry. Curry's shown flashes of being aggressive. Where he scored double digits and helped Taz out a little bit. Right. I just think there's got to be that third guy that's a little bit aggressive and can help Sherman and McNeil out.
Yeah, West Virginia wins this, though, 56-53. So you can certainly sing country roads on this night. Ethan Bock here joining me live from the Coliseum, able to soak up the energy there in this national broadcast. They beat the number 15th ranked team in the country. They beat an old Big East rival. It's that old Big East style of a game for West Virginia. Bob Huggins is going to kind of love that as well. Sherman does get his points. Basically half of the production, give or take some here, as amazing as that sounds too. So they certainly wouldn't have done it without him here. Mike Asti here, our WVU postgame show on Pittsburgh Sports Live, and all our post-game coverage, our game recap from Ethan and any of our video reaction here on PSL and also WV Sports Now. Now, Ethan, there's been a lot of upsets around the country. This team has been winning games. They have only the 1 loss to this point. The schedule is getting easier coming up prior to Big 12 play, imagining that they could stack some wins and go into Big 12 play, which right now that first game would be against Texas, who is a top 10 team. But say you even go into that game with only the 1 loss to Marquette, which was a good team at the time, and you keep on playing like this, what would it take for this West Virginia team to deserve a ranking for you? And is that even something that is going to be hard to get because of who they're playing coming up? Is it going to be a situation where, yeah, they're winning, and yes, this is a big win. This is clearly their biggest win of the year. You could have made an argument prior to this game. They hadn't really beat anybody legitimately, not any great wins prior to this one. So they needed one of those. They get it now. But will they be able to secure anything here moving forward prior to Big 12 play that will actually impress anybody to get that ranking? Or is this win good enough to slide them in there? What do they need to do to get ranked now that they've gone through the year here almost in a double-digit amount of games played with only the one loss and a top 15 win?
Yeah, you don't see many teams go the previous year ranked all season and then go start their next season 8-1 and not receive any votes any week so far.
Right.
They haven't had an AP vote at all. And that's just, I'm not saying, I don't know if this team's ready to be ranked yet. It's probably a good thing or not, because I think they play better when they're not ranked. I think this win though does give them finally will give them receiving votes in the next poll. I don't know. I think it just plays off of what the other teams do in the top 25 for the rest of the week. They can maybe slide in at 25, but I think most likely they'll just get receiving votes. I think in order for them to get in the top 25 they just got to keep winning. They have a true road game against UAB. That's even though it's the Conference USA member, it's not the greatest team to play against. That's still a good win on the road.
Sure.
If they go in against Texas on New Year's Day, they would be, I think, 11-1 at that point. Then they'll probably be a top 25 team because they have that marquee win now against UConn, who will probably be in the top 25 for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and UConn's not going to slide out of the top 25 just because they lose this one game. They might go from 15 to 20 or 18 or whatever the case may be, but they're still going to be a ranked team. They're still a very, very good team. Does any of this hinge on the fact that Marquette's lost a couple games since they played? Marquette losing top 25 ranked up two top 25 ranked opponents, but still they've lost. They're 7-2. So the Mountaineers actually have a better record than Marquette. Marquette did beat West Virginia kind of handily. And as you mentioned, this is the only real quality win for West Virginia to steal kind of a football moniker there. I mean, West Virginia beat Clemson, Eastern Kentucky, Radford, Pitt, Oakland. These aren't going to probably impress anybody, but they have now this quality win. So is winning enough? And then I guess it'll depend on what you do against Texas. You hate to see a scenario, though, where they win, they still don't get ranked, and then, they lose the Texas game, and then they can't get ranked because that's a loss.
Yeah. If they beat Marquette, they're in the top 25.
For sure.
Because they're undefeated. I think come March, when the committee's looking at how to seed West Virginia, they're going to look and say they beat UConn, and people might forget that UConn didn't have their top 2 of 3 best players in this game, and Adama Sanoga and Tyrese Martin.
Yeah.
So this is a really good win for West Virginia, and the fact that they were able to take advantage and steal a win over UConn.
Does that diminish it at all? Do you think that diminishes it all in terms of the voters?
I mean, if people looked into it, yeah. But if they're just looking at the score and they see UConn, I mean, it's regardless. UConn's a deep team this year. They'll be a tournament team for sure.
Right.
It could even be a second weekend team. So regardless of the injuries that UConn had, this is a really good win for West Virginia.
Ethan Bock here joining me from the Coliseum in Morgantown, West Virginia. No matter who's out there, they get a victory over UConn, who enter the game at number 15 in the country, 56-53 for the Mountaineers here on PSL and WV Sports now. Now, Ethan, we talked about whether this team would get ranked here and potentially some issues for this team that are still there. What do you like about this team that we haven't, besides just maybe being better rebounding than we expected early in the year? We got to end this on a positive note. They do get this victory here. Yeah, maybe an undermanned UConn team, but they get the victory. They obviously have, Kent State, UAB, those teams coming up. They should be favored. They should get those victories. I'd imagine the Keys are kind of keeping up what they're doing now, rebounding enough. Taz leading the way and getting some offensive production around him. But what do you like about this team to this point in terms of their progress, and how good can this team really be? What's the ceiling for you for this team, and how has that adapted itself for you from when the season began to where they are now as we're speaking in the night of a top 15 victory, where you're sitting there in the Coliseum soaking up the energy on national TV? I'd imagine that was kind of a cool experience as well. So where can this team go? Is the sky the limit now? What's the ceiling for this current West Virginia team off of this victory over number 15 UConn?
You're putting me on the spot. I think the fact that they're able to shoot 12 of 27 from the free throw line. You said it was 44%,
right?
And beat a top 15 team, like that shouldn't happen. And they got out rebounded too. Like the fact that they're fact that they're losing these categories, like these statistical categories, and they're still being able to, like,
almost every night, really, every night.
Yeah, and they're able to just go past like number 15 UConn. Like that's right. It just shows how much heart. Like, it's gonna sound cliche, it's just how much heart this team has. Like,
yeah,
Polycap, Gabo Saboyan, they're always Kerrigan, they're always hustling out for plays. And I mean, they shoot well from three. They shot all right from three tonight. They shot 5 of 10 in the first half. I think the three, they live or die by the three on offense a little bit too much.
Yeah, I'm not saying you got to pick them to go to the Final Four here, but how much better are they now from what you maybe thought they could be this year? And is there even a ceiling that could get them better than currently where they are now? Because they won against number 15 UConn, but they certainly have some problems they need to fix. They didn't have their best day. They lost all these categories that you're mentioning. So how much better can they get from where they are now, and how much better have they already gotten from where they were a month ago?
I think at the beginning of the season, they were getting out rebounded by like 15 to Pitt and Oakland. Yeah. Now they're at least in the rebounding battles. They may not win it, but they're at least in it, which that's shown a lot of progress. They've gotten way better on the rebounding. The free throws, I give it some time. I think eventually they got enough free guys who can confidently make free throws. I think today was just a bad night on the free throws. I think like as going on, like this team really does have a chance to, I don't know how well they'll be seeded. It's too early to say, but I think this team really does have a chance in March to, if they can match up against the right opponent, to out hustle the opponent, and they can sneak their way into the second weekend.
Okay. A win like this also helps you in your seeding. I mean, if they're in a situation where they're okay, we're going to put them in. They didn't win their conference, figuring that doesn't happen. We're going to put them in, but where we're, from a 7, are they a 7 seed? Are they a 5 seed? Are they a 10 seed? Oh, they beat number 15 UConn early in the season. This certainly would matter what UConn does the rest of the way, assuming that UConn doesn't just completely torpedo off the map here. They're still going to be a ranked team. Yeah, that could certainly, I would imagine, help West Virginia. You need a win like this if you're the program, because up until this point, and if they lost this game, even if it was close, which certainly could have happened in those final seconds, as you alluded to earlier, if they sat there and said, oh, they close one with UConn, but still lost and beat Clemson and Radford, I don't know.
Yeah, you need good out of conference wins. Conference wins are great, but like you need to show the committee that you can beat teams outside of your conference, and they did that tonight. This win really will help them in March when it comes to seeding.
Yeah, and they all matter. The whole body of work matters, and they also had to hang on at the end, so they did show heart. It's all cliche, but they did show heart. They're really playing for Huggins this year. Hey, depending on where they get in terms of a seeding or what they do in a Big 12 tournament, Huggins, again, this might be one of his better coaching years. Again, maybe some awards could come his way separate from the Hall of Fame based on this team's progress to this point. And they're losing some battles that if you just look at this box score and don't watch this game, you're completely dumbfounded how they're winning this game, how they're winning some other games this year, how they haven't been upset a time or two this year, which is probably why they aren't receiving top 25 votes. It will now be telling, though, where the voting goes after this win. They have a legitimate win. They still only have the one loss to a good team. it will be telling now, because I feel like if they don't get a ranking now, when will they get it? They don't have any more games to impress anybody because they are facing mid-majors who aren't as good as UConn prior to then facing a top 10 team in Texas, who I don't think many are thinking they're going to beat. So if you lose that game, you stack wins before, and you don't get ranked off of this one, almost what can you do to get a ranking at that point? And you did mention it's very, very odd, despite losing Deuce McBride, for a team to be ranked so much last year, to have so much hope last year, even preseason wise, and then to go through the first couple months with one loss and not even get a vote. So I'm imagining a vote got to come their way. Whether they actually get ranked will be a whole different conversation. Ethan, I appreciate the time. I imagine you had some fun there at the Coliseum off of a big win for the Mountaineers. So the fans there were able to sing Country Roads. I will now let you go on your merry way and either sing Country Roads or do whatever you want here this evening, as your coverage is up there in West Virginia Sports Now. We have a video reaction also ready for you here on Pittsburgh Sports Live. Ethan, I definitely appreciate the time. The West Virginia Mountaineers win it 56-53 in an old school Big East showdown with Connecticut. The number 15th ranked Connecticut Huskies fall to West Virginia. The Mountaineers now 8-1 on the year, and certainly an opportunity to really stack those wins now with a really big win on their resume. So West Virginia gets one over an old Big East rival, and they do it over a ranked team, maybe not impressive fashion, but